Finally, our last geometric shape is a kite. It's not a parallelogram again. What makes something a kite is that it has four sides. It's a quadrilateral, but two of the sides are congruent and the other two sides are congruent. But notice the opposite sides aren't congruent. So no pair of opposite sides are congruent, so they won't be parallel. The reason it's called a kite is, yes, it kind of this shape you can fly. I know there's different types of shapes, but this was the original one. When you have a kite, the diagonals are perpendicular. Notice once again, they don't bisect, because if they bisected, it would be a parallelogram. But they are perpendicular to each other. What's kind of confusing is notice one of the sides is bisected, but not the other. Now, if we take a look at some properties here, I just told you I should actually look at my own notes before I start lecturing. Yes, the diagonals are perpendicular. And you have one pair of angles, one pair of opposite angles congruent, but the other pair aren't. That pair of opposite angles comes from they're between the non-congruent sides. The ones between the congruent sides, they are not going to be congruent. That sounded kind of confusing, didn't it? I just confused myself. If we take a look here, the reason I know this, if I draw the diagonal from J to K, or J to L, let me redo that. Let me make this a little bit bigger so we can explain it. So if I draw the diagonal from J to L, what happens here is triangle JKL is an isosceles triangle, isn't it? Since triangle JKL is an isosceles triangle, we know the base angles are congruent. So what happens is angle KLJ and KJL are congruent. And I could do this, I could say the same thing for the other isosceles triangle. So those two are congruent. So that's why angle KLM is congruent to angle MJK. Now let's see if we can apply that to a couple problems. We've got triangle, or not triangle, we got WYX is a kite. We want to find the measure of angle XYZ. Angle XYZ, that is not the adjacent angle. The adjacent angle we know is angle Z. Angle Z is 121 degrees. So now if we think back to what we did in the first lesson of this unit, it's a quadrilateral, so I know the total is 360. So I know 121 plus 121 plus 73 plus my missing angle, I'll call that X, equals 360 degrees. Well, 121 plus 121, that's 242. If I add 73 onto that, make this a little bit bigger so we can see it. 242 plus 73, well, that's 511. That's 315 degrees. Well, we subtract 315 from both sides. And X turns out to be 10 minus 5 is 5, 45 degrees. And there's your answer. Now, last question, example 6. We've got a kite again. This time, I want you to find length N to P. So here's N to P, and we don't know anything about N to P except it's a kite. We know it's the same as M to N. Well, how do you find M to N? Well, remember, the diagonals of a kite are perpendicular. So therefore, you've got a right triangle, so we can use Pythagorean theorem. Hypotenuse squared equals leg squared plus leg squared. So the hypotenuse we don't know, but we do know one leg is 6 and the other leg is 8. So c squared equals 36 plus 64. Well, 36 plus 64 is 100. Take the square root. C is 10, positive square root. So n to p equals 10 because we know both of your sides, the adjacent sides, are congruent in a kite.